Good morning, everyone, and welcome to my presentation today. I'm really excited to participate in the BIM Harambee Africa event, and without further ado, I'll kick off now. The message that we've got is around encouraging BIM participation across Africa, and this really resonates with me. My role at Autodesk is the Territory Sales Manager for Africa, and I'm engaged and involved with customers basically from Casablanca to Cape Town. And I get to see a lot of the projects and a lot of the work that's been done across the region. And my team is deeply involved in a lot of these projects that we are delivering. Now, one of the titles or things that someone came to me and asked me about is where is BIM in Africa? Are we too late to be able to adopt BIM? Or can we use the recent problems, COVID and the economic recessions brought on by it, to actually leapfrog this technology and look at where we can take this into the future? So as we know, the state of BIM in Africa is very dependent on the countries that you're working in. Each country has embarked upon its own journey towards BIM. Some countries are more advanced, while other countries are either not even started or have fallen behind. So in order to give you a view of each of the countries, I've actually invited my business development managers. These are individuals that are based in each of the countries in Africa and each of the focus countries in Africa. And I'd like them to give you a quick overview of where they see BIM in their respective country and some of the changes or big projects that they're working on. You'll see that we've developed a scorecard, and the scorecard is out of 10. Showing each level of development that we've got. So at this point, I'd like to hand over to my team and let them talk through this project. Thank you, team. Let's go.
Hi, everybody. My name is Brian Otinda, working at Autodesk as a channel manager looking after Anglophone Africa. I'd like us to chart the status of BIM in Kenya by touching on 3 key buckets: nature of projects, project execution method being employed, as well as project owner level. So far, Kenya has been on an interesting BIM journey. Coming from a history of good adoption in digital technologies, we see that the private sector, led by lead project stakeholders such as architects, are at the forefront of BIM adoption in the country. In contrast, the government, though, is still a laggard when it comes to BIM adoption. This may be due to the low enforcement of key project success metrics, such as on time, on budget, and with the desired quality. However, since a huge proportion of government-led projects have private companies as part of the delivery teams, we are starting to see some level of awareness of BIM within government, which has in turn sparked off conversations of a BIM mandate with government-affiliated industry bodies. Also, a recent trend in large government infrastructure projects is the use of PPP, public-private partnerships. And with projects being done in this way, increasingly, the winners are companies that have adopted BIM. And this, we expect, will have a trickle-down effect with the stakeholders involved in these projects from an awareness as well as use perspective. Individual project owners, though, are still not adopting BIM as expected, especially given the fact that the 3 key project success metrics we've mentioned seem to really speak to the areas they can derive most value in. This may be due to the fact that a large number of project owners have costs at the top of their mind, and a lot of the time they opt for less costly proposals, even if those are not efficient at all, as long as the contractors can't fit within their meager budgets. In summary, BIM adoption in Kenya has had varied outcomes so far. And as major stakeholders such as the government gets exposed increasingly to BIM technologies, we expect an increasing penetration of digital technologies across projects within the country. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. My name is Louis Iwebuna. I'm the Business Development Manager for Nigeria and Ghana. BIM adoption in Nigeria. The BIM awareness and adoption in Nigeria, architectural, engineering, and construction companies is significantly low. The adoption this innovation has received very little attention, most especially from the government. It's being driven by private sector. And with the private sector trying to drive, we need to bring in the government to be able to achieve a lot from this. The government being the key spender, and they are the key infrastructure developers in this part of the world. We will need them to be part of it so that we can drive and move to the next level. Only a few private firms use some BIM tools at organizational level. Most of them use it in the area of lonely BIM and operating model based BIM stages. But what we've discovered is that in most cases, a situation whereby they now have to work with a different consulting firm, they start having challenges due to the other company not moving at the rate at which both companies that are doing consulting are at. No legislative provision on BIM adoption or regulation. Nevertheless, the government is open for new concepts in promoting and advancing the industry. We've started working with the governments to see how we can improve on this adoption and also on the awareness. A lot has been done. We've been able to do adverts. We've been able to work with NGOs. We've started working with both federal and state governments. We've been able to train some government officials. And also we've created more accredited training centers across Nigeria. We've also created BIM ambassadors in our higher institutions to be able to drive this from that level. We're also working with regulatory bodies of these professional bodies in terms of the regulatory bodies for the architects, ACON, regulatory body for the engineers, COREN, regulatory bodies for the builders, in order to assist in driving this. The regulatory bodies have really assisted in taking us to where we are presently. They've been able to include it in curriculums for accreditation of courses in some schools. They've also assisted in trying to drive anytime they have their business meetings. A lot has been done with them. And we also have some private NGOs also assisting in terms of BIM Africa and Structural BIM of Nigeria. They've been doing a lot in terms of awareness, in terms of events. We collaborated with them last year to have a BIM adoption event. We were able to bring in professionals also from outside Nigeria, from UK, to be part of it. A lot was achieved at that event, and the awareness has really gone from where it was last year. It has grown furthermore. But the key thing here is that we're looking at having more professionals that can use the BIM tools and be able to implement it in terms of project delivery in Nigeria. Thank you all.
Hello, my name is Brenda, Brenda Livoy, Business Development Manager, East Africa, here from Autodesk. I'm here to discuss the adoption of BIM in Ethiopia. The adoption of BIM in Ethiopia has been slow, but the construction industry is growing tremendously. We've seen a big increase in type of constructions being done in Ethiopia. The bigger percentage of this BIM of the projects are being done by the international firms, and the local firms are also doing some bit here and there. The government of Ethiopia has been on the front line for BIM adoption in the country. We've seen organizations like Ethiopian Construction Project Management Institute, which has developed a 10-year roadmap to support the growth of local sector. And it's also being spearheaded or supported by Ethiopian Construction Industry Council. So there is a lot of government initiatives being put in place to help in adoption of BIM. Schools, universities, Ministry of Education, they're also very highly involved in seeing how they can bring in BIM, but also in a very strategic way by bringing pilot projects so that they can all be participate in. Many organizations are working towards BIM success in Ethiopia. but we are still seeing a stagnation when it comes to private sector because of the different challenges that are being experienced. Some of these challenges are like existing culture and mindset. Embracing new technology has not been easy in Ethiopia. Capacity building, legal framework, collaboration and integration of efforts, investments, and incentives. There is still some challenges in this area, but we are seeing a promise when it comes to BIM adoption in Ethiopia in the near future. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Abbas Lamaria. I'm the Business Development Manager for Autodesk based in Algeria. As you see, the rate of adoption of BIM is very low compared to the other regions in Africa. We have made several events since 2018 to make adoption facilitate and the transactions with the help of our local partner. So our journey just started compared to the other region. We are already involved with some big project with the government in terms of make BIM mandate in the final. We already start some pilot project with some organisms that belong to the government under the Ministry of Housing. Right now, in the same Ministry of Housing, we start other project to make collaboration between BIM and GIS and BIM with maintenance operation and plan. So this project will start soon in 2021. And the purpose of this one that make a roadmap for all Ministry of Housing subsidiary that they take the share of 75% of all construction in Algeria. As well, we made some collaboration with some organism that, for example, we have civil engineer, the board of civil engineer that we already made, give them free training for BIM and Revit. As well, we try to make them the transaction very easy. We made some special discount for them to help them to make the transaction very easy for them. As well, we are trying to make some contract with some body that belong as well to the government, but they are separate of them. We have CNL, so and they are trying to make a training center to government to make the training, special training for government subsidiary, and to make facilitate as well the transaction for BIM adoption. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, I am Radhouane from Tunisia. I am the Channel Development Manager for Francophone Africa with Autodesk. Well, to discuss about BIM, the overall rate of adopting BIM in Tunisia is quite low. Even we see that there is a lot of activities that have been held in Tunisia from different associations. We have, for example, Tunisian Smart Cities, which is a very known association that it's working on implementing BIM and SIM, also city information modeling. There is also a couple of other training centers that they started teaching the BIM process, but mainly it's all around Revit, which is not really BIM, but anyway, it's a first step to use the first step to start practicing the basics of BIM. Our main struggle, let's say, in Tunisia is governmental institutions. Let's say it's a political strategy. So they really don't see how they can adopt this process because of its complexity. Maybe sometimes we tried as Autodesk to do a couple of events, and even we did an annual yearly event around BIM where we invite all the governmental institutions and the most important companies that belongs to government in Tunisia and to try to sensibilize them around BIM. Most of the people, they were interested, but the let's say the motivation of adopting BIM was quite low. There is also the question of budget, because BIM needs new hardware and software and all the fees that goes with that, and because it's a governmental decision, so maybe they don't have the budget to adopt, especially for such big number of people that we need to use and adopt this process. The good initiatives that we have, maybe it's from the building investors and project owners, that they know right now the benefit of using BIM, how it can make them save money, save time, and have less errors, and have a better coordination in constructing their projects. So some of them, they started when they release a call of tender to ask for an architecture company or something like this, they impose that the architect need to have the necessary skills of using the BIM process. Another thing also, the BIM is mainly adopted by the engineering offices, that they have international projects. For example, we have companies in Tunisia that they have projects somewhere in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, like in Ivory Coast, Senegal, or something like this. Or if there is also engineering offices that they are a subsidiary of an existing international company that they are using BIM already, or if they need a collaboration between different companies that they are mainly abroad or outside of Tunisia. So let's say the overall adoption of BIM in Tunisia is really low, but the interest is really high. Well, I hope I gave you enough good feedback about the BIM history in Tunisia. Thank you, everyone.
And let's turn our discussion to South Africa. So in South Africa, BIM mandates and projects have primarily been driven by the private sector. We have, however, seen various government departments starting to pick up. We see Department of Public Works and various other institutions starting to adopt BIM into their day-to-day workflows, and we're seeing some really good results coming out of this. So I'm going to rate government as a 3 out of 10. And the main thing that we're seeing is that, as I said earlier, private sector is really driving the demand and where most of the work is coming through. What is really exciting is building owners are now starting to realize that BIM documentation and BIM projects really help them in terms of the execution. So we are starting to see an increase in building owners starting to adopt it. So I've put them at about a 6. And one thing that is really good in South Africa is institutions like the BIM community and various other organizations are extremely active, multiple events happening all the time, and a lot of open and frank discussions around BIM and the adoption of BIM into the various country frameworks and systems that we've got in place. I think, which everyone is aware of, one of the main things that we saw that catapulted BIM into the forefront and stopped it being just a discussion forum in South Africa was COVID, and how COVID has helped adopt the BIM technologies into mainstream projects. Up until now, there's been a lot of talk in South Africa, but no one's really invested in the tech, and we're starting to see that now come across. So our scorecard for South Africa is pretty good, with a lot of areas of improvement, especially around governments, building owners, and then moving through to accreditation bodies, which I don't think quite have capitalized. Right, let's bring this all back together again. So what we've learned through the study or through the work that we've done here is that BIM adoption across Africa is ramping. If we had started this a year ago, you would have seen that these numbers would have been lower, and there has definitely been a lot of adoption in different regions, and there's really been some exciting developments in many of the countries that we are working in. Of course, this is not a definitive example of this, but this is just the perspective of our team and the people that are working within each of these countries. What we have also picked up from this is that this has been predominantly led by BIM organizations, followed by architects and then engineers. So it seems, having association bodies like BIM Africa and BIM Community really do help and does help the industry to develop their capacity and their ability to engage across platforms. Work still needs to be done in the construction sector and with building owners, but again, we are seeing a very good uptake in these industries. So thank you to the Autodesk team for coming up and giving us that information. I think it was very valuable at looking at where we are today. And I'd like to now switch gears and talk about how do we use BIM technology to leapfrog, and also looking at how do we return, reimagine, and enable BIM integrity for post-COVID resilience. Now, as we've heard from everyone, BIM is not easy, and BIM is really something that people are worried about, and that people are battling to understand. How do you get this data together? How do we put it into one single source? How do we integrate from multiple data sources? And where do we actually go with this? And then we see the complexities, the business challenges that we've got. We've got these analog and disconnected processes. So everyone is trying to do something. They're trying to move to a paperless environment, but BIM is more than a paperless environment. Yes, most 70% of all global projects are still done on paper, but moving to a digital format or moving to a data platform is just so much more than just the paper that you're going to get rid of. There's also the challenge that we have around construction productivity. We see that the constructive sector, even after everything that they've done, is still one of the least efficient sectors in the world. Across all market sectors, we still have one of the highest level of waste generation out of everyone and any other sector that we're working on. Another challenge is how do we find, hire, and retain talent? As sites get more complex, we need to make sure that our staff are the right staff and that they have the right skills that are required to develop their work. And then how do we manage innovation? There's so much innovation going on in this world at the moment, whether it be robotics, whether it be digitized construction processes, whether it be new ways of pouring concrete. Innovation is changing the way that we can work today and the way that we need to build. So we've got to look at how we manage innovation and how we build it into our projects. And I think that the thing that really catches people is the rise in complexity. Everyone wants the new shiny building. They want the new information. They want the best facades. They want weird designs. And this is making our projects incredibly complex. Material sciences are evolving, everything is evolving, and the amounts of structures that we're having to put in place is just adding, and it's becoming almost impossible to manage this complexity that we're seeing on site. And the last is, a new emerging thing around industrialized construction, where we're starting to see people looking at construction as a manufacturing process and looking at how do you break manufacturing down into individual blocks, like almost building blocks, Lego blocks, that allow you to manage and build efficiently, or even do building off site. So build it in a factory, make sure that it works like a jigsaw puzzle, and then flat pack it and send it on site. So in order to help companies and organizations address this, Autodesk has invested a lot of money, about $1.5 billion, in making acquisitions and building out what we call the construction cloud. And what the construction cloud is it's an investment that we've made doubling down on our legacy strength. And we've invested to make sure that we bring unparalleled efficiency gain to the entire construction lifecycle, right from design through planning, through through construction, through to operate. So all the way through this process, your data is live, and we carry the data along with us. And this is the strength of our technology, is that you have one common data environment, and that allows you to move data seamlessly from all the different stages of a construction process. Whether you're an owner-operator, whether you're an architect, whether you're the construction designer, this data is live and available through to you at any stage of the production. And this is where Autodesk's real best-in-class strength works. So you know that Autodesk is the market leader through our technologies like Revit and BIM 360. We have the best-in-class products for all of these different aspects of your work. And through the Autodesk Construction Cloud, we have linked all of these technologies together. So whether it's, if you're just doing design authoring or design collaboration, we have made sure that the data flows through this, and this workflow exists that allows you to move data from one aspect to the other. So when you look at the construction process and you look at, the life cycle of a building and the BIM data, there was a lot of confusion and people were very worried about where to start. And I think the technology that Autodesk has built out in the construction cloud reduces that risk radically, because your data is sitting in one common data environment and you're able to move that data seamlessly between different platforms. This is a very, very powerful tool set that can help you embark upon this journey. Of course, none of this is possible, and where the real secret sauce of this type of solution is in your insight and your predictive analytics, to be able to look at a project and work out where things are going to go wrong, look at your history on projects and say, hey, why did this go wrong? Why is this? How did we improve the efficiencies? And start using your predictive analytics to understand, where bottlenecks are, where can you improve your efficiencies. And this is the secret of a really connected construction cloud, where you're going from taking data seamlessly, but also having the ability to interrogate that data and use it to make better decisions in the future. Now, we know that the construction sector is made up of lots of different players. There are lots of different technologies out there. And we understand that we are the best of breed in terms of the construction cloud technology, and that we have the levels of support and the level of technology to give you your end-to-end construction solution. But we are not, by any stretch of the imagination, financial and budgeting planning tool providers. We're not a workforce collaboration tool. We do a lot of Internet of Things devices, but we're not everyone in that space. So what we've done is we've built our construction cloud on an open and extensible platform called Forge. And what Forge allows people to do is to integrate with our platform. So we are able to do this so that people can take data seamlessly in and out of our construction cloud. If they want to publish it into their Primavera system, if they want to publish it into SAP, absolutely. We have the solutions to do that, and we have the plugins that allow you to do that. And a lot of people ask me, why do we want to share data with our competitors? There are competitive brands in there. It's the same concept as why Google allows Google Apps to be used on an iPhone. We want to be able to be the best service provider in the space and be able to integrate deeply with all of these different technologies. And as you can see, we have a host of different players that we integrate with. We have thousands of different connections, whether you're doing cost management, whether you're doing the holographic through 4D walkthroughs of buildings. Everything is made available through these plugins and this extendable platform. So what is the Autodesk Advantage? The Autodesk Advantage is that we are the leaders in design in BIM. We have leadership in design in BIM. We have a breadth of portfolio of products that allows us to integrate and share and give you the best possible solution for your requirement. The third is our global presence and support. And you've heard from my team that are based across Africa. We have operations in many different countries. We have resellers and partners all throughout the globe that will be able to help you on projects anywhere, wherever you are. And then, of course, we have this convergence of manufacturing and construction, and Autodesk's leadership in the manufacturing technologies around our Inventor and our Fusion products. This is where we're really starting to see the synergies between construction and manufacturing. So be able to send a file directly from Revit into Inventor to work out how to build something, or how to take a project and break it down into these bite-sized chunks and start pre-construction. This is a really exciting development, and we think that this is the future of the actual construction sector. And then let's have a look at the next side of this. How do we design for post-COVID, and how can BIM help us to adopt in the space? As I was saying, One of the challenges that COVID has introduced into our world is, what do we do post-COVID, and how does technology help us to adjust to a lifestyle or a lifestyle once we're through this phase? And as you can see, everything has changed. And one of the things as our workforce adapts, many of us is wondering how this crisis could be turned into a catalyst. Today, the question is can COVID fuel innovation? Innovation has always come from crisis, and yet we could say that the AEC industry has been very slow moving, has been a very slow moving crisis all this time, and it hasn't really seen much innovation. Individual firms are very good at innovating, but the industry in a whole operates the same way as it did 70 or 50 years ago. We all have the problems facing low profitability, low productivity, without seeing any rapid innovation. When we talk about innovation in AEC, it always seems to be around the next corner. Now, with COVID, it has forced us to change. At Autodesk, we see three big themes driving innovation post-COVID: digitization, design, and disruption. So if we look at digitization first, digitization has transformed the way we work. Virtually overnight, firms moved their projects and operations into the cloud. Businesses were now able to work wherever they were, whenever they wanted to, and realized that the acceleration of digital and the adoption of digital has really transformed our industry. So if we look at how many monthly active projects that are being used during the COVID period, you can see that Autodesk has twice as many projects in the clouds today as we did 6 months ago. Digitization has reached a tipping point, and there really is no going back. In fact, we've had customers that their companies try to roll them back to non-cloud-based technologies, and the staff nearly had a rebellion. So let's think about design. And we've spoken about digitization and moving to digitization, but what can happen in the design pace and how design is changing? So if we look at design, there are three main areas that we work in. COVID has forced building owners to renovate indoor spaces to meet physical distancing guidelines. We also need to understand how people move through spaces, how air moves through spaces, and ensure that everyone is safe. Designers have responded to these by adopting innovative design tools that can help simulate existing conditions and rapidly generate multiple design options. So let's just have a look at this. And if we were to tackle the idea of space planning. So in this example, you're going to see a tool that automates tasks like the layout of desks, restaurant tables, interior. And let's see that actually happen now. In this example, we all see users and how they use technology to adapt a generative design for a workspace layout. So imagine this is your office space, and this is actually a real live example. And this is a predetermined space. And basically, we're looking at optioneering of how we're going to lay out our office. So today, this is what it looks like. And these are the options that we'd have if we were just doing it ourselves. Now, using generative design, we are able to start looking at taking the parameters that we've got of physical distancing and putting that into the software. I don't think you'd have too much of an issue doing this yourself. You could design this and you can work out how long it will take you to do it. But it's going to take some time to come up with different options. What happens if suddenly we have to create a lot of different options? We have to put in the physical spacing, we have to put in all of the other details. And this is where the power of Revit and generative design comes in. So by putting the goals and our requirements into the software, generative design is able to spit out multiple options very, very quickly, taking into consideration the spatial requirements that we've got. So here's that same office using generative design to come up with different options for the design layout. So using the technology, you will be able to optioneer and come up with hundreds and thousands of different options that you can then review and choose the ones that you want to work. In this example, they've chosen a grid layout, and all they've changed here is the distance between, they actually kept the same distance between areas. And again, quick, easy, simple. Couple of seconds to do a job that would have normally taken a person a very long time to work out. So generative design is a great tool and a great way for us to be able to expand upon spaces and look at how we position products within a space. Let's turn our attention now to what other things we can do with this. And let's have a look at people mobility and moving people between our floors and between our offices. And COVID has made us take a deeper look at how people move throughout our built environment. So in this example, what you will see is we're using InfraWorks' mobility simulation tool to navigate through an office. And in this example, what you'll see here is we are going to be simulating everyone arriving as per a normal business day pre-COVID. So you'll see in this building example, we'll have everyone arriving and they'll arrive 30 minutes before work starts, and they will start moving through the building. And as you can see, immediately you're starting to see that contact is happening and people are too close together, you know, not maintaining the 6 feet distance. You see crowding in elevator spaces, you see crowding in spaces where people are moving through. So with mobility simulation, we can now simulate staggered arrivals. So here we have people arriving at 3-hour intervals, and you can immediately see that we have reduced the amount of congestion in the building. So people are able to move very quickly through these areas, and we can start looking at assigning parking and everything like that as well. Of course, we can also prioritize elevator use. So using this tool, we can see how many people are using the elevators, where they're using them, and what they are doing with them. The other thing, of course, is social distancing and making sure that we have unidirectional traffic patterns, so we can set up that when a person is moving through or simulate people's journeys through a building and through a working space. So another great example of using the tools that we've got to very, very quickly inform policy and inform policymakers around the use of our building examples. In the next example, we're going to have a look at how air quality and airflow moves between buildings. It's vital that designers are able to ensure clients have clean air and it's safe in the buildings to move through it, and people can return without being exposed to dirty buildings and dirty air. Autodesk CFD analysis, computational fluid dynamics solution, it identifies areas of risks and explores strategies that occupants can safely move and be able to enter into buildings by looking at where air is moving. The next thing that we'd like to look at is airflow and the air design. Physical distancing is one of the requirements that we have within a building. And one of the other challenges that we've got is airflow and air quality. And as you can see in most buildings today, people are very worried about sick building syndrome, about air moving through. You know, what happens if someone coughs? Where does it go? With Autodesk CFD computational fluid dynamics solutions and simulations, we are able to identify areas of risk and explore strategies for occupational safety to make sure that people are not exposed to any sort of germs. So let's have a look at how we can use CFD within an office environment. So in this example, that's me sitting at my desk and my boss is coming over to talk to me. Now, with the airflow simulation, I can simulate the air moving between the different buildings, between the different areas, and you can see where I'm facing there. As soon as my boss comes and starts talking to me, I'm in trouble, because you can see that as he's talking and if he coughs, immediately his air is moving into my space. So that's a challenge for me. Also, people sitting in an open plan office, you can see how the air would flow from that person if they were to cough. So what you can start doing is using design options, doing CFD design options to have a look at what are your options. So in this example, you can see a side-by-side analysis of two different options, one with a standard open plan and one with a higher level of credenza between the individuals. So you can see immediately as that person on that side sneezes, none of that air moves to the other side of the building. So this is a fantastic option to look at air and look at how air flows within the buildings and our environments. So we can make sure that there is no problems or no areas of risk, looking at things like heat, looking at surfaces, looking at volumes, wherever anything is moving. I think that the last thing we're going to look at is disruption. And this is our third theme that is really driving innovation. Disruption can come in many forms. COVID could be a catalyst for an industry-wide reimagination of the way we build our world. This is a time for us to ask those provocative questions to challenge all of our assumptions. What are we going to do together as an industry to finally tackle the big problems? Is it time for us to give up on drawings? Is it time for us to move away from job sites? Should industrial construction become more dominant mode of delivering buildings? Should environmentalism determine where and when and what we build? And I think we need to think about what are our priorities as an industry. Is it now time for us to transform the AEC industry? And if we don't do it now, when we're under this much pressure and with this much change, when should we do it? So thank you all for today's discussion. I really enjoyed this opportunity to talk to you about BIM and about the future of BIM in Africa. And I hope that we've given you some thoughts and ideas and some things that you can discuss with us on the forums. My team will be available throughout this period, and we will be available via the email addresses that we've shared with you and through the chat discussions that we've shared. And you will be able to engage with the Autodesk staff at any time. So thank you very much, and I really appreciate this opportunity to engage with everyone, and I wish you all of the best for the future.